All right, in this video, I'm going to talk about why we stopped world schooling. So I'll cover what we did for a couple of years, where we went, what we liked about it very briefly, because there's a lot of videos that talk about, what's awesome about world schooling. And then I'll talk about more specifically what we didn't like and why we decided to stop and what we're doing now. So if we're just meeting, my name is John Caldwell. I am a father of three. We've been homeschooling our kids for 6 years now, and we decided to go world schooling 2 years ago, or 2.5 years ago now. We were living in Florida at the time, and we just put all of our stuff into storage and decided to pick up and go. And our first stop was Mexico. Went there for 6 months, and we lived in a little village where my wife's parents had gone snowbirding, basically like wintering there for many, many years. And we decided that would be a good first stop, have some people that we know in town and get to hang out with them. Yeah, it was really fun. It was we got to learn Spanish, got to know the area. Went to Puerto Vallarta a bunch because it was nearby. We were in that little fishing village with like a 4,000 or 5,000 population, and we had a really good time there. We then after that went to visit some family in Canada. Then we flew off to Spain and Portugal. So we stopped in Portugal first for 1 month, just outside of Lisbon, and we loved it there as well. It was really cool. Got to see a bunch of, churches and castles and just really old school architecture and learn about the history of Portugal and the people. And, I picked up a little bit of Portuguese, not that much, not as much as Spanish. And then after that, we went to Spain. In Spain, we did a world schooling kind of hub thing where we went and lived with other families and did schooling and kind of shared schooling all together. It was really fun. I know it sounds like a hippie commune thing, but it wasn't that. It was like it was a fun experience. It was actually in the mountains in Almeria, kind of in the middle of nowhere in this little town, and we loved it. It was really cool. Kind of roughing it a little bit, which was fun. That was part of the adventure. The mountains there were like old Western movies, and we just kind of lived there for 2 months. Went hiking all the time. The kids learned a bunch. It was really really fun. And then after that, we went to Dominican Republic for 6 months. So we went to two different cities, one on the North Shore, Cabrera, and then we went to Las Terrenas. And so that was a bit more touristy, but more populated. Both really nice spots. We loved the DR, loved the people there. It was really nice. And yeah, so our whole kind of philosophy of world schooling was focused on like slow travel. Like, let's not be in a rush. Let's go get the full experience and travel and really get a feel for each spot. So I would say in each city, we would stay between 1 and 6 months, depending on in each country, we'd stay 1 to 6 months. In each city, the most we stayed was 3 months. It was nice because then we weren't really rushed to see everything before we were leaving in a week or two, right? So we had a little bit of time, and it felt a lot nicer. We got to know the local people, got to know the other families that were there, traveling or just visiting, or even like living there as expats, right? So we got to meet a lot of really cool people. So really quick, I'll cover what we loved about the experience. I won't go too deep into it. I might do another video on this. Let me know if that's interesting. But because there's a lot of content already on YouTube and online in general about people saying like what's awesome about world schooling. So I figured what would be useful or helpful to other families considering it is to talk about kind of like the less ideal parts of it and why we ultimately decided not to do it. So I'll just briefly cover the good stuff. The good stuff obviously is the novelty, right? So you get new experiences all the time. You get to expose your kids to all kinds of different environments and cultures and people. You also get to do a lot of adventures, so you can be more spontaneous, especially because you're slow traveling. We found that we didn't need to like schedule everything. We would just go and meet people, and then someone would say, hey, have you ever been to that waterfall? Or have you ever done that hike? Have you checked out this historical site? And so we just kind of like went with the flow a little bit, which goes a little contrary to my background in nature. I was in the military before, and so for me, I'm used to like being a bit more rigid in the scheduling. So it was a bit of an adaptation, but it was actually really fun to just pick up and go and meet some people and, hey, want to come with us to this thing? And yeah, sure, let's go. So that was really cool. We went, horseback riding through the jungle. We saw all kinds of waterfalls, hiked a bunch. It was just a great time. And the novelty was really cool. Great people as well. So we met a lot of really nice people. Made friends from all over the world. We have friends in Ireland. We have friends in California now. Really all over. And we have friends in Spain, Dominican Republic. Like we've got a kind of a global network of friends now, I think, which is pretty fun. And then also language and culture. So just learning about different cultures and trying out different foods and picking up also Spanish was really cool. So our kids now speak conversational Spanish, my wife and I as well. And I think we had a bit of an advantage because we were starting with both of us speaking French. So it was definitely not starting from scratch because they're very similar languages. And yeah, the diversity of culture, language, faith, political leaning, everything, you just feed everyone on every end of the spectrum when you're traveling. So I thought that was really, really cool. So what we didn't love about it, ironically, it ties to the first point I mentioned about novelty. So the constant reset and also like the novelty addiction in a way, or like dopamine addiction. So the constant reset piece is like, okay, we're always in our suitcases, kind of unpacking and repacking. Even if you're slow traveling, when you first settle in, you have to like do this constant reset of where's the gym, where's the grocery store, where's the pharmacy, all the basic things. You have to like relearn that every time. And it's fun and exciting the first couple of cities that you're in, but after a while you get tired of like having to relearn everything from scratch. So it feels like you're always kind of restarting. And then also the novelty addiction. This might just be like nature versus nurture, but I found that the more we went along, the more that like it was really novel at the start. And then I finally got used to novelty and I was expecting novelty. So we'd be in a city that was awesome, had all kinds of things that we still hadn't seen. But once it felt like I was in a bit of a routine there and be like, okay, well, it's time to go now. We've got the itch to go to the next city. And I think there's a downside to that. There's a plus side that's, adventurous and yada, yada. But the downside is you start to expect it. And then the routine of life and just, normal ongoing life gets kind of, you feel like boring and you're always expecting another adventure. So I don't think that's ideal. I'm not sure if that's how we want to raise our kids, if that's how we want to live. So that was another thing. The friction, I'll expand a bit more on that. Like just always, so even if you're slow traveling, I found that when we don't bring everything, right? We made a point of traveling light. So after our first trip, and I might talk more about like the practicalities of traveling with a family, but after our first trip to Mexico, we started just packing carry-ons. And that was a lot more efficient, more cost effective, and it was just easier. But we still found that in every city, because we have young kids, right, ranging from at the time 4 to 9, we had to get beach toys, right, in every new town because we're not going to carry them. They're like $10 or whatever at the dollar store. But every time we'd have to go and like rebuy these things and then give them away at the end. So that was nice. We're, giving back, I guess. But it was still just a, constant kind of like friction of, okay, now we're 2 weeks out. We got to make sure our passports are good to go. Got to make sure our visa is there. We're lined up for the next stop. Like we have our accommodations. So there was like this low level of maintenance all the time, like kind of underlying that you're planning the next thing. And I found that was a little bit of friction. It would have been nicer if we're like, hey, let's just go live somewhere else for a whole year or 6 months straight in one city. It probably would have been easier mentally to handle instead of like these big kind of moves, right? Where we're settling in for 2-3 months at a time. Sense of displacement. So this was interesting. I mean, I'm not sure if this applies to everyone. I imagine not. Like some people are probably way better at this than us. But we always kind of felt like we'd connect with local people, we'd connect with expats. But even then, you still kind of feel like you're always apart. You're always like a little bit of an outsider. And again, that just might be us. I'm not trying to say like paint with a broad brush and say everyone will have the same experience. That's not at all what I'm trying to say. But it just felt like we were kind of always, we would connect with expats. And then it's difficult because your friendships there, either they're people that are staying there full time for several years and they know that you're only there for a couple of months. So we felt that a lot of those people, of the expats who are living there all the time, they wouldn't want to invest themselves in you because they know you're leaving. And then likewise, you have people who are there traveling for a week or two, you become friends with them, and then they got to go back home to get back to their normal life, right? And then same thing for the local people, right? So the locals, they look at you like, and again, I'm painting with a broad brush here, but wherever we went, it was like they know that you are only there temporarily. And so we always felt a little bit of a distance, and that's probably like a self-preservation mechanism, right? Like I can imagine it's really difficult to befriend all these tourists and travelers that are coming through your town, especially if it's a tourist hotspot, and then every 2 or 3 months, your friend group cycles out. That's got to be really taxing. So that also makes it a challenge for us as we're traveling to like deeply connect with people. That being said, we still managed to make some really good friends. There's a few groups of people that we're still in touch with today. We still chat with on a regular basis. And so we're grateful for that. But it was definitely a bit of a downside to feel like you're always kind of like a little bit on the outside, right? Last few points, the basic health, utilities, and conveniences. So tying back to the original point of like, okay, we get into a new city and then you have to find the pharmacy but there's also like another layer of it where, in North America and Canada, the States, you kind of expect a baseline level of road maintenance, right? And not having parasites if you go and play in a river, or I mean, there's certain rivers you shouldn't play with in North America as well. But I feel like it's less of a concern. And I say this as, we actually got sick in the DR and in Mexico with like amoeba parasite infections or whatever. We had to like take the cycle of anti-parasitical medications. And so it's just things that you don't have to think about normally in Canada or the States. Again, I think it's part of the adventure. It's a double-edged sword. You have to take the good with the bad. But it's definitely a bit of a frustration after a while to be like, oh, I'd love to go there. Oh, but maybe there's something that could get me sick, right? And then same thing for the roads. It's like at first you are okay with the roads, having like these giant potholes or being washed out and not repaired for weeks on end. But it's just you have to accept it as part of daily life once you're living there. And you come back home and you just realize, oh my gosh, how nice is it that all of our roads are well maintained and we have steady electricity. I work remotely, and so yeah, in the DR and in Mexico in particular, we'd have sometimes like brownouts or pure blackouts where the power would be out in the city for a day or two, right? Where everything's offline and you have to try to make do. So you're like rushing to cook whatever food you have in your fridge. My calls wouldn't work, and I have to go and find the one or two buildings that had a backup generator in town, and then ask them if I could work there and like bring my Starlink satellite dish with me and all this. So that was a little disruptive. And again, I know these sound like first world problems, and they absolutely are. But it's just you have to realize like it's part of the adventure at the start, but then as you're kind of settling into a normal life routine, these little frustrations do kind of add up. And then also other points like sports for the kids. So it was difficult because our kids really wanted to play sports. They loved playing football, basketball, soccer, and they couldn't do that really on a regular basis wherever we were because there were leagues already going. They could do like drop-in classes and little like ad hoc games here and there, but it was really difficult because they couldn't commit to a program or a season or training for a specific sport. Now that we've settled down back in Canada, our boys are really into hockey. My daughter's into gymnastics. So things are, progressing there. They're getting way better at it much faster, and they really like that. So, and also like the last thing is kind of materialistic. It's just missing our things and not having all of our little, like our usual, clothes, and because we're packing again with just carry-on. So we packed super light, having the same, 5 t-shirts and 2 dress shirts for 2 years. And then, cycling them out as they got worn or whatever. But it was definitely nice to come back and get all of our stuff again and be settled back into our normal home, right? All right, so while we stopped, ultimately this was because our kids actually asked us to. So it was a really funny, I was really proud of my boys. They called a family meeting when we were in Portugal. So about 2/3 of the way through our planned trip, they said, hey, we got to talk. And they sat us down at the dinner table, my wife and I, and they said, listen, we love traveling. We're having a lot of fun, but we want to start planning to settle down. We want to get back into sports. We want to have our normal friend group. We want to have a routine. We miss those things. And as fun as it is to travel, we do want to get back to kind of a quote unquote normal life. And so it was really funny. I was so proud of them, and my wife and I, thanked them for being upfront with us. We didn't get mad or anything. We just had a whole conversation about it. And we said, all right, so what we'll do is we'll finish our trip. We'll go to Spain and Spain and Dominican Republic. And then after that, we're going to settle down. So we started looking for, okay, are we going back to Canada? Are we going to the States? Where are we going to ultimately pick? And had the whole conversation with them and included them in the decision-making process for that. So it was a really cool sign. I was so proud of how mature they are and that they felt comfortable coming to us and having that conversation. Also, we were tired of living out of our suitcases, right? That gets old for all the various reasons I mentioned before. And there was a few experiences that we had where we talked to some families who had been doing this for a long time. One case, the woman's daughter had shared that she was frustrated and didn't like traveling, and the mom wasn't in agreement and was kind of like dragging her along. And so we kind of felt bad. It's a tough position to be in. And so we didn't want that to happen with our kids, where they're kind of like upset with us that we're dragging them along to all around the world. And because, mommy and daddy want to travel, right? And also another family, actually, they were considering going back because their daughters had mentioned to them, we're just tired of it and we miss a normal life and we would like to, get back to a normal routine back home, right? So we kind of saw the writing on the wall and figured like this is the right thing to do. I think most kids are not built, and this is another point I have, but I think most families aren't built to be nomadic. Like I think you could argue there's probably a subset of the population that is genetically predisposed to be nomadic. Like if you look at, various cultures around the world have had nomadic populations that are just always traveling around and picking up and moving. But I think you kind of have to be predisposed to it to be able to do it full time for indefinitely, right? And so I just realized like that's probably not us based on the fact that we miss our home and want to go back, right? And then, yeah, finally, the kids are getting to the age where they should be setting down their roots and kind of getting their lifelong teenage friends. I traveled a lot when I was a kid. My parents moved around a bunch. And for me, my mom, though, when I was 12 years old, said, okay, we're settling down and that's it. We're staying here. And I'm really appreciative because I have friends from that, from about 12 or 13 onwards that I'm still really close with today. And I'm grateful because if we kept moving around, I don't think I'd have that level of connection and those lifelong relationships and friendships. So yeah, that's kind of the high level view of, what we did, what we liked, what we didn't like. Again, I'll probably do another video on more specifically what we like, the highlights of the trips and the various adventures. What we're doing now is we are actually just homeschooling. So we're settled down. The kids are in sports. We're homeschooling with this curriculum that we've got. The kids are loving it. And we did a little bit of tutoring. They fell behind a little bit while world schooling. That was a challenge as well, catch them back up fully with where they should be. And now they're actually past where they should be. So thankfully the readaptation wasn't a huge challenge. But yeah, so we're homeschooling them. They're in sports. They're doing music. My son published his first book, which is awesome. So yeah, we're just, settling back in and back to normal life, so to speak. So yeah, let me know if there's anything else you want me to talk about. I'll leave it in a comment or message me, and I'll try to address it in one of these future videos. I'll be talking about everything about, parenthood, business online, homeschooling, world schooling. I've kind of decided that this channel is just going to be like a general interest channel. So bear with me. I'm going to be talking about anything and everything. So hope you're along for the ride. Cheers.